Now we're going to talk about something called relations. So let's get some vocabulary out of the way first, make sure we know what we're talking about. So the first one should be, I hope, familiar. That's the coordinate plane. Co-ordinate plane. That's the plane containing the x and y axes. That's the plural for axis right there. So there's just one of them, it's AXIS. When we're talking about more than one, it's AXES, but it's axes, not axes. And that's obviously things that look like this right here. That's the coordinate plane. Now the next vocab word is at the center of the coordinate plane. It's called the origin. And this is the point 0, 0. Next up is an ordered pair. That's how each point is named. We always put the x value first and the y value second. So an ordered pair could be like 2, 3, meaning the x value is 2, the y value is 3. And it's a pair because we always have to have two numbers. I mean, one of them could be 0, that's okay. Contrary to some popular arguments, 0 is a number. But it's an ordered pair because we need two numbers in order to locate this point. That's also why this is called a co-ordinate plane. The word ordinate means location, or at least its root is talking about location, and co means together, more than one. So that's why we have to have two numbers to make an ordered pair. And here we come to the big word, a relation. So a relation is a set of ordered pairs. So it does have to be more than one, but it can be a relation if it's just two ordered pairs, or if it's 400 ordered pairs, or anything in between. So a relation is just a set of ordered pairs. And two pieces of the relation are the domain and the range. The domain is the complete set of x values of a relation. And a range is the complete set of y values of a relation. So I want to briefly try to give you some ways you can easily remember, or hopefully easily remember, which one goes with x, which one goes with y. So one simple way is just think alphabetical. D comes before R in the alphabet. D for domain, R for range. And X comes before Y in the alphabet. So you could remember it that simply. Another way you can think about it is with the actual words. Domain, outside of the math world, can also just mean where a ruler reigns. So like a king's domain is the actual land that he is over. And when we think about land, we generally think about things that are horizontal. So the x is also horizontal, like the x-axis is the horizontal line right here. So if you think about domain being land, land tends to be horizontal, just as x's do. Now range, if you think in music, range is how high or how low you can go, whether that be with your voice or with an instrument. So range has to do with high and low, which is vertical, just like the y-axis and the y values are. There's 4 ways to display relations. So I've given us the first one, ordered pairs. So this here, these 3 ordered pairs form a relation. So what we're looking at right here is a relation. And so we're going to use those ordered pairs now to show how we can display them in a different way. So ordered pairs, you must put parentheses around it. It's not an ordered pair if you don't put parentheses around it. You also must put a comma in between the two numbers. So a table is really just changing it from this format to a table, meaning you literally just transpose the numbers from the parentheses to these boxes. So 1, 2. So just like 1, 2, 1, 2. Negative 2, 4, negative 2, 4. 0, negative 3, 0, negative 3. A mapping, these shapes can be more oval-like if you want, or you can do rectangle. They tend to have some rounded edges to them, but anyway, it's not really that important what shape you use, but you should put a shape around each one. And sometimes these are just labeled X on top and Y on the top. But you could also say domain and range, because that also shows that you have not only the relation, but it's defining which part is the domain, which is the X values, which part is the range. So here, I just write the X values, 1, negative 2, 0. I write the Y values, 2, 4, negative 3. Now we're not quite done, but you see that really is just rewriting the same numbers again. And with a mapping, you also draw arrows from the X value to the Y value it goes with. So we know back to the beginning, 1 goes with 2, negative 2 goes with 4, and 0 goes with negative 3. So again, important parts of the mapping is that you draw a shape around all the X's, draw a shape around all the Y's, and then draw an arrow from the X to the Y value that it goes with. And then we can graph these things as well. So our first one is the point 1, 2. So for every point you're graphing, start at the origin. You start right here. The first number tells you how far to go right or left. Positive numbers to the right, negative numbers to the left. So that first number, 1, tells me to start at the origin and go right, 1. Then the second number tells me how far to go up or down. If it's positive, I go up. So this is a positive 2, so I go up, 1, 2. So this is the point, 1, 2. And you don't always have to label the points, but since this is the notes, we're going to label them just to show what we're doing and how it relates to these others. But 1, 2 means go to the right 1, go up 2. Negative 2, 4. So since it's a negative, we still start at the origin, but we go left 1, 2. We go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then we have 0, negative 3. So since the first number is 0, that means I stay at the origin. I don't move left or right. It just stays on this line. Now the negative 3 says I go down 3. 1, 2, 3. So these are our 3 points. And this is 4 different ways to show the same relation. So these 3 ordered pairs are a relation. They can be displayed as ordered pairs, as a table, as a mapping, or as a graph. All right, more vocabulary. Then we'll get to some actual problems on the back, or actual practice anyway. So first there's the independent variable. That's the value of the variable that determines the output. And this is always the X variable. And the dependent variable is the value that's dependent on the value of the independent variable. So let's say you put a bucket outside while it was raining. How many inches of rain actually fell from the sky are what's going to affect how full your bucket is. So the number of inches of rain that fall from the sky would be the independent variable. How full your bucket is would be the dependent variable, because it's the rain falling from the sky that affects how much water is in the bucket. How much water in the bucket does not determine how much rain falls in the sky. You can't just fill the bucket with a hose and then somehow cause it to rain. So you can almost think about this as cause and effect. It's not always literally cause and effect, so that's why it's not defined that way. But kind of a simple way to think of it is this tends to be the cause, this tends to be the effect. Okay, so let's apply this to something. So this is, I think I forgot to put a title here. This is babysitting. So this is showing amount earned and number of hours worked with babysitting. So notice they labeled what the independent variable is, the number of hours worked, and they showed what the dependent variable is, the amount of money earned. So they've already told you which is which just by labeling the graph this way, because the x-axis always shows the independent variable, the y shows the dependent variable. If you think about it, this does make sense that this one causes this one. How many hours you work is what determines how much money you earn. Them handing you money doesn't somehow retroactively cause you to work hours. So the number of hours you work is what determines how much you earn. So first question says, name the ordered pair at point A and tell what it means. And I think this is maybe the most important part of the lesson I want to make sure we understand. Because we don't want this to just be numbers and a grid. We want this to make sense because this really does get used in tons of industries, and there's always data that businesses and government and different things are using, and us understanding what it means when we see something like this is really important. So the ordered pair A, that's that point right there. You can see it's right there at the origin basically. So ordered pair A is 0, 0. So the x value is 0 and the y value is 0. So that means the number of hours that they worked are 0 and the amount of money they earned is 0, which makes sense. If they didn't work, they don't earn any money. So you could say this means working 0 hours earns $0. And it's okay if you word it slightly differently, as long as you understand the point. You could say something like, if you don't work any, you don't earn any money. That's also true. Okay, now let's try the ordered pair at point B and tell what it means. So B, notice we do have different scales here, and what I mean is down here on the x-axis we go up 1 each time. On the y-axis we're going up 6 each time. And it's okay for them to have different scales, but on the x-axis they have to be consistent, meaning it's okay if they go up by 1, but if they go up by 1 they have to go up by 1 every time. It's okay if they go up by 6, but if they go up by 6 they have to go up by 6 every time. So I couldn't do 6 and then 9 and then jump up to 15. I can't have different amounts between each point. It has to be the same amount. But back to point B. So we see the x value for point B is 1, the y value for point B is 2. So the ordered pair B is the point 1, 6. And we know x is the number of hours worked, so that means working 1 hour. And 6 is the amount of money earned, so it earns them $6. So working 1 hour earns them $6. So the last thing to do is identify the independent variable and the dependent variable. So the independent variable, as we talked about, is the number of hours worked. That's the x value. And the dependent variable is the amount of money earned. Okay, and Independent variable goes with x, so we can list the domain. And here, we need to list every point they give us. So I know only 3 points are labeled, but we need to list every point that's marked. So we've got a point at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because remember, the domain is the x values. So I need to list in the domain 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all the x values in the relation that we were given. Because the relation we were given here was 6 ordered pairs. It's 6 points on the graph. The range is the y values 0, 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30. So the range is all the amounts of money they could earn, which is 0, 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30.